Hola hola everyone, my name is Gabby y bienvenidos a mi YouTube channel. I bet you guys love my setup today. I'm coming to you from my car, but I'm actually headed to an interview in about 20 minutes, and I decided what a better time than right before an interview to do a video on interview tips that have helped me prepare for this interview and that have helped me get better at doing interviews throughout my college career. So if you are new at interviewing or going to interviews makes you a little bit nervous, here are some tips that hopefully help you guys feel a little bit more calm and prepared. First, let's start with punctuality. Punctuality is extremely important, especially because you are making a first impression on the person who's interviewing you, and it is a show of respect for their time if you get there on time. You may have heard the phrase, early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable, and that is so true when it comes to interviews. You want to give yourself a 20 to 30 minute buffer of getting to the place. You don't know that if you're going to encounter any type of traffic that may slow you down, or if you are going to have issues finding a parking spot. So having a 20 to 30 minute buffer makes sure, or I guess allows you to encounter those issues, solve them, and still get there hopefully 10 to 15 minutes early. The second thing is to bring a few copies of your resume with you. The person that's interviewing you probably looked at this beforehand, but just in case, sometimes there are people that screen resumes and then the person who interviews you is a little bit higher than them in the hierarchy of the company, and maybe they didn't get a chance to look at your resume. So bringing a copy of that is always helpful and helps them have something to refer back to when they're getting to know you. Next thing is that appearance matters. Although we would love to think that we live in a society where it doesn't, it really does. So I would always recommend erring in the side of caution. If you're not sure what you're supposed to wear something more conservative. Make sure that your jewelry is dainty. So for example, today I'm wearing a blazer and I'm wearing a very dainty pearl necklace. So that's what I would recommend. If you're wearing earrings, only use one set of earrings. Keep it with neutral colors, business colors of gray, blue, black. You know the deal. If you look up business professional, that's usually what you want to be wearing, unless you know that you're going into an environment where the expectation is different. Prior to the interview, I would recommend looking at common interview questions just so that you have an idea of how to prepare. A lot of the times, interviewers will ask you about examples where you can talk about teamwork, empathy, working under pressure, and all of that. So having a few examples and moments in mind when you go into the interview will help you feel more at ease, because those questions usually can catch you off guard if you haven't looked them up beforehand. Another important thing is to conduct prior research on the organization that you're going to be interviewing for and your interviewer, if you know who that person is. When you're researching the company, you want to look at the mission statement, at the values that are important to that company, and how those align with you. What stands out about this company that makes you want to interview for them? That's probably a question that they're going to ask you. It looks really good when an interviewer asks you about why you want to work with them and you show that you know what their mission is and what their values are and how you can help the company further those. If you know who's going to interview you, researching them may be really helpful because it may give you some points of connections with the interviewer. So looking them up on LinkedIn, seeing where they went and got their degree may help you see, oh, I know somebody that went to this university. Or it can also help you ask more pointed questions, because then you're going to be informed in what their position is at the organization. And so that will help you ask you questions, particularly regarding their role in the organization. Also, it only makes it fair, right? They are definitely looking you up prior to the interview. They're looking at your resume, potentially your social media and your LinkedIn page. So always be mindful about what you're posting on those. So they're going to know who you are, hopefully when you walk through that door, very likely. And if you also know who they are, that may give you a sense of peace when walking in there, and it may not make you feel as clueless going in. Another really, really important one that you have probably heard so many times, but I promise you it matters, is having questions at the end of the interview, okay? So sometimes you will have asked a lot of questions throughout the interview and you're good, but it is always good to have that extra one in hand just in case, so that when they ask you that, you have an answer. An example of a question could be, what are the goals of your company currently? And if I were to be hired, how can I help you carry out those goals? Another one can be, I know the values of your company, list a few of them, and say, what are ways that your company is working to cultivate these values within the work culture, or something of that regard. So if you can bring that mission statement and values into those questions, those can really help you out. Of course, there's always going to be maybe logistical questions about when can I start, all of that, but it's also good to have those thoughtful questions because it shows that you have done your research and all of that. Another one is that when you're talking about experiences in your resume, if there is something that is not on your resume but you want to talk about, that makes you more personable or makes you a good candidate for this position, to find ways to weave those experiences in to your answers. So for example, if you are involved in something on campus but that is not on your resume, let's say I'm a TA and being a TA is not on my resume because it is not a job, it is part of my education and I have other jobs that are on there. So if we're talking about leadership, for example, I can talk about being a TA, and even though that's not on my resume, it shows them that I have experience in education. So find ways to bring those things that are not in your resume into the conversation. And last but certainly not least is to be yourself. Be genuine, be authentic when you're answering these questions. When we are really nervous, a lot of the time we seem rehearsed because we have looked up these questions beforehand, and that's only natural. The first few interviews in your life are probably going to go like that and are going to feel a little bit rehearsed. But once you get a little bit more experience, it's going to feel more comfortable, and hopefully you find ways to bring your personality across when you're having those conversations. A tip that I've heard is that whenever you are scheduling your graduate school interviews or your job interviews when you graduate, is to interview for the companies that you're not super excited about first, and then those will provide you with practice for the ones that you're really excited about. So then by the time you get to those schools, you have had those practice runs, know what to expect, and hopefully you feel a little bit more calm about them. So those are the tips that I have for you guys when it comes to doing interviews and preparing for them and leaving a great impression. I have to get going for mine. So please wish me luck, and I will see you in the next video. I hope that you found this helpful. If you have any other interview tips, make sure to leave them down in the comment section, and I will see you in the next one. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.